Do you have political aspirations now? Do you think you'll ever run again?
Look, one of the things that I'm really working hard to do is to say, I'm going to listen to what God wants me to do. You know, I've always kind of tempted to drive my own direction. So I don't want to be too kind of dogmatic in this. But if elected, I will not serve. That's about as strong as I can say. No, I'm never running for office again. It was kind of a fluke that I did. I served for 16 years, the second longest period anybody has ever served in this district, behind Souder, going back to the creation of Fort Wayne. And it was a great honor. But I don't have a desire to serve in office anymore.
Do you miss it?
Not as much as I thought. You know, last night doing the things at Wool was almost as much fun as winning. Now, almost is the key word there, winning and serving. But I served a long time, and I was beat. I was worn down, if people couldn't see that. I gave every ounce of my body for this district to fight for every job. I mean, we just came through 4 of the rough years. We were first into the recession, and we'll be among the first out. If we'd have lost that GM plant, that it would be lights out. We had just finally got back from 1983, when International closed its main facility, to 2009. That's how long it took to get back to the employment level of 1983. We fought for 16 years to get that. I fought like crazy to get this new hospital for the veterans. It's going to be lost unless Marlin really gets up and fights for it, because they would like to back off, and this administration would like to back off. It's going to be a huge issue to watch here. I don't think we're going to get the new hospital unless Marlin holds it. They didn't say anything during the campaign that the new congressman has to fight for that. We have new planes coming into the airbase, but those are short-term planes. We won a 10-year battle, but my job was to pass it, as Joe Long did to me. The airbase, that's a huge employer. It's critical for the prestige of our area, that airbase. All those defense contracts were earmarks. The USSI Sonoboys, the ITT Sengars. Evan Bayh and I fought like crazy to keep ITT here. There's a danger that we could lose 1,500 jobs if the next congressmen and senators don't fight for those Sengars radios, even if they have to earmark it, if not directly in legislation, then calling over and fighting for an administration. You know what? Without TARP, Lincoln was close to done. Their stock went from 23 down to 7. That it's now back up. They took $300 million to stabilize the annuities fund. This is the largest annuities area in the world. You better get in there and defend the financial interests. People think, oh, it was New York. New York, it was Swiss Re in Fort Wayne that's building a new headquarters. It was Lincoln Financial, world center of the annuities. 58% of the RV market is in Elkhart County. Joe Donnelly and I worked to make sure that floor planning was there in TARP, because if you don't have any financing for the dealers, there were no RVs coming out of Elkhart. Come to the health care bill. Evan Bayh cut a tough deal. And I talked to the orthopedics industry. They told me to keep fighting the bill. They had a tax in there that would have knocked them out of Kosciuszko County. Evan Bayh cut that tax in half. Now, I wouldn't have backed the bill, and he backed the bill. But at least he got something for backing the bill. And so part of politics is ideology, and part of it's fighting for a district. Doing all that exhausted me. It's time for the next person to take over. But it isn't just about platitudes. You better fight for the people from here.
Do you worry that the strides that you made, do you worry that the things you accomplished will not be furthered? As you said, Marlin needs to get in there and do some of those things.
I worry about the air base and the Veterans Hospital. The industry, now that the recovery has started, isn't in the same. He doesn't have the same conditions that I had when I was congressman. We did cash for clunkers, but the auto parts people survived. We did the GM. I would have done it differently. I wouldn't have taken common stock, but we needed that loan to GM, and they've added 1,400 jobs. If Harvester was taking those 1,200 engineers out right now, and we didn't have the expansion at GM, do you know what would be happening to Glenbrook Mall? Do you know what would be happening to the new hospital expansions? There wouldn't be doctors. We'd be closing more schools because we'd be losing jobs. We held it. That was what I viewed my job. Now, Marlin's challenge won't be these first 4 years in economics. It'll be a few, like ITT Sengars and some of that. But it'll be as the economic conditions start to change, will you fight for that? You can't just give platitudes. But he's got time to to pick that up. Plus, Dan Coates is from here. So Dan Coates will be in the Senate to fight for our region. We've basically had 2 senators from Indianapolis. Now we have a senator who, Dan Coates certainly knows Indianapolis, but his kids were born here. He worked for Mutual Security Insurance here before. He worked as a district rep for Dan Coates, and then he was for Dan Quayle. Then he was senator based out of this area. So Dan Coates can help fight for our region too.